The home inspection is one of the most powerful protections a buyer has in Washington state. It's also one of the most emotional weeks of the entire transaction. Chris, when the inspection week hits, what's really happening?
So inspection, great protection to the buyer. When the inspection week is going on, we will schedule it for a single day. Buyers are probably as nervous as your sellers at that point because it is a big leverage to the buyer. One of the things that not a lot of people know, and I've taken care of a lot of clients in Washington, you can walk away for anything or nothing. It is a very powerful contingency to have. You will get those buyers late at night that are reading the report at like 9 or 10 o'clock and they want to ask you questions, and that's pretty normal. It's a big report. I think on average, my inspector said about 100 pictures is average. So really just creates a punch list for most items, but identifies any really big, risky, big ticket items as well. We do have to also coordinate if you're going to do a sewer scope. Washington has a lot of trees, so don't miss that sewer scope because there could be root intrusion. Not all fun to look at, but very important because that can be a big ticket item. So we're also going to, depending on what we find in the inspection, we're going to be scheduling some specialist follow-ups possibly, maybe electrical, plumbing, foundation. Those are just to name a few.
So it's a lot to digest, right? This is a big part of the transaction. Joe, what does the inspection contingency legally allow a buyer to do?
As Chris mentioned, the inspection contingency is one of the most powerful contingencies we have. By default, it's 10 days that the buyer has to hire an independent contractor inspector to come in and look under the hood. They do have the right to do it themselves, but if they don't use a certified inspector, they're waiving some rights. What they do is they'll have the inspector come in. It'll probably take anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to look at all issues in the home. They'll get a report, and then the buyer's agent usually sits with them and walks through that. We have until the timeline to respond. When we respond, we do it on a form called a 35R. And in that, the buyer has 4 options. The first is what we love as sellers agents is it's satisfied, we're moving forward, no requests,
Okay.
nothing to do. Very rarely happens. The second is the inspector is going to call some items out that we're going to need more information on, that the buyer's going to want more information. So if you've hired an independent inspector, you have the right to request additional days. It's a right, it's not a request. You have the right to demand additional days for additional inspections by a specialist. The other option is to say, hey, this was a disaster. I want to walk away from the home. And the fourth, which is most common, is it's a point where the buyer can negotiate either credits towards closing costs, repairs to be made, reduction in a price, anything of those terms. The one thing a buyer cannot do is request money directly to be paid to them.
You mentioned that probably the most common is that last option. What would you say percentage-wise? There's typically some kind of ask, and what does that look like when we make an ask?
I would say probably at least 75% of the people that have done an inspection ask for something.
And what do they ask for typically?
Depends on the need. Oftentimes they want to control the process after closing. So they'll ask for money to be contributed to their closing costs. What that does is it allows them to hire and control the project at their own time and just
All right, so Ashley, why do inspection reports scare buyers so much?
Yeah, good question, right? So inspection reports scare buyers because they're long, technical, kind of written in caution-based language, even when the home is in solid shape. Most reports are 40 plus pages, packed with photos, notes, flagged items. So to a buyer, and especially a first-time buyer, it can read like a list of disasters instead of a condition snapshot. Everything tends to sound severe in inspector language. Inspectors are trained to call things out, conservatively. So normal wear and tear and minor issues can feel major when read without context. Buyers also struggle with the difference between routine maintenance items, age-related wear, and true material defects. Without guidance, it all blends together and triggers panic. First-time home buyers especially can spiral into, did I choose the wrong house? So this is where agents step in to reframe and prioritize. You want to separate safety issues from maintenance. You want to identify what's common versus what's uncommon. Get specialist bids when needed, put findings into cost and urgency perspective, and remind them that no home, even new, has a perfect report.
That's interesting, right? I was just going to say, so we've seen between us, I don't know how many hundreds of real estate transactions. Have you guys ever seen a clean home inspection report?
No, no.
No,
I mean,
no
clean,
perfect home.
meaning a few items on there, right?
Right. No such thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot on there. Chris, you said 100 pictures, and Ashley, you talked about all this technical stuff. This feels like something that we should do, right? So let me ask you guys, should buyers ever waive that inspection?
Well, as a debt broker, I have to say absolutely not. It's never in your best interest to waive that inspection. Now, we do have market realities that Chris and Ashley can speak to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge negotiate. When I, as a listing agent, will really strongly suggest that we look at any offer without an inspection because of the leverage that you have as a buyer. Like Joe mentioned, basically, you got site control with an inspection. So you can ask for anything or nothing. It's really does not look good when you go from pending inspection back to active. All you get is questions from agents or buyers that are wondering what's wrong with the home. Buying a home can be either really, really fun or extremely stressful. And this is in the preparation. And this is a step that you really have to prep your buyers for.
And Ashley, are there a couple tools that we can kind of look for to help ease that fear for the buyer?
I always tell my buyers, I never want to tell you not to get a home inspection, but you put yourself into a competitive situation, right? Where there may be more than one or two offers that you're competing against. And when that stage starts to happen, that's when you start seeing inspections being waived. But there's things you can do to prioritize that. There's a pre-inspection. So before you put an offer in, you can go out there with a licensed and bonded inspector and take a look at the house that way and then decide if you want to move forward. That would probably be the safest way, but I would never tell a buyer if the circumstances are to waive that.
There's also seller procured inspections. And I think you want to take that with a grain of salt because you might not be aware of who that inspector is or ever worked with them before. One of the things we like to do is if it is competitive, we have our inspector look over that inspection specifically. If there's anything that's major that he feels like might be missing, at least we have a trusted vendor that we've used for hundreds of transactions in the past that can speak to that inspection if the seller is providing it. But, definitely do your diligence on that.
One other thing you can do on the seller procured inspection report, in fact, we just did this because the timeline was short. We actually called that inspector directly. We vetted them. We asked for more clarity on all this stuff. Most of the time, these are certified inspectors that when they do that, they want to be contacted. It's good for their own business, but it's also great for their reputation to be able to walk through and talk about it.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does the home inspector work for us, the agent, or for them, the buyer?
Buyer always. Like they're working for you as the agent, you should definitely get rid of them. You should explain to the buyer that they represent them. Feel free to ask any and all questions.
Yeah, 100%. All right, thanks, guys. And this is how it actually works in Washington real estate transactions every day. For more answers like this, visit the madronagroup.com FAQ, where we break down the entire process step by step. Thanks for watching.